Motivational speaker and author Veli Ndaba recently launched his fifth book, The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership. He joins me now in studio for a further discussion on what the book is all about. Mr. Ndaba, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Firstly, congratulations on the publication of your fifth book now, yeah? Tell us a bit more about the topics that the book seeks to unravel.
Thank you very much. The title of the book is The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership. So what this book was basically inspired, or how I was inspired to author this book, was based on a number of questions that come about. One of them is the one that says, are leaders born or are they made? So it's a perennial question that comes a lot. So I thought I needed to dig deeper into the neuroscience, which is the science of the brain, and just really find out exactly, is that the question that can be answered or not? So it covers quite a number of topics, because right now we've got issues with lack of leadership, which is something that is global. And one thing that I need to emphasize on is that Africa in particular has been portrayed and has been seen as a dark continent. And yet it's not actually a dark continent. Africa itself means sunny. It means that we've got a lot of potential in us, but leadership is actually under siege. So this is what the book seeks to do, to address the issues of, or the question and the elements of leadership, as well as how do you really become an effective leader based on how the brain works. So it's putting in science, behind leadership.
Speaking about putting in science behind leadership, it's very interesting that you also have a background in engineering and neuroscience. Yeah. And now this has also shaped what has become this book as well, but focusing on leadership. Where do the two meet?
Exactly that. So my background, when you look at my personal, skills, when you look at my, my skills, my skill sets, they are in engineering as well as in neuroscience, which is understanding how the brain works. So when you bring in or you combine the two, neuroscience and engineering, then you get this new discipline called neuroengineering. So this is the one that I'm applying, because when you look at neuroengineering, it looks at the fundamental principles of how the human brain works and how human behavior gets to be driven by, what we do. So for me, when you look at engineering is about the innermost workings of things. When you look at the essential, when you look at how everything gets to be driven, when you're designing the machines and everything, so the brain works in a similar way, because we need to understand exactly what drives it, what chemicals are there, and how did it evolve over time. Because if you don't understand how the brain works, then it becomes very difficult then to, just to manage the activities and all the reactivities that are taking place, and the reactions as well.
But also interesting is that you've also written previous books focusing on growth and personal growth, yes, and empowerment as well. So with the formulation of this book, how does it then build on some of the books that you've had in previous publications?
That's fantastic, because my first book was You Are Born to Win. So I was talking more to bringing people that kind of, self-belief and confidence in themselves. And then I wrote the second book, which is, your dream is calling you. Because we all have dreams. At the end of the day, without dreams, then you are lost. That's why it is said that, for the lack of purpose, people perish. And then the third one was switch on your personal power. So this was the build-up, to how we can become the best that we can be. Then the fourth one was set your soul on fire, because without your soul being on fire, then there's nothing much that you can actually achieve. And then adding to that was now digging deeper into the science, because now I've built people to really understand and to believe in themselves, to come out of the darkness. And now this book is about basically giving them the tools of how they can become the best that they can be, with how the brain works. So it's about understanding the science, because science, what is nice about science is that it's based on data. It's not just something that someone comes up with something and say this is how it is. It's based on evidence. So with my background in engineering, so this is how therefore I operate, because I want to see the data, because that's why talk is cheap, because everyone can just share all these things to say this is how it is. But show me the data, and then I can be able to, to believe you, which is the reason why therefore even I help teams and help leaders based on using the science behind this very complex machine called the brain, because most people never get to see this. So this is what I teach about in terms of how it works even inside, and then how it actually got built. Because people think that the head is just the brain, but it's actually what's inside our skull that is the brain. So I use the practical, I take the practical route, to help people really understand what really makes them feel the way they do, and what drives them, what makes them exhausted, what makes them angry. Why are leaders so poor, some of them, whereas there are others that are seen and that are known, like the Mandelas of this world, and the other, top leaders that we get to see in the world. So, but the important thing is what drives them to be great leaders.
It's quite remarkable, but also remarkable is your journey, having to move from the corporate world and all its comforts to then being a motivational speaker. I mean, it's quite from what I've read, it's quite an inspiring journey, if you will. Speak to us about how your personal experiences have shaped the work that you are now doing as an author and motivational speaker as well.
I think for me, one thing that I can say is that I'm a very curious person. I don't normally just take things at face value. I always want to dig deeper into things and really understand, the source of them. So what really informed my move from corporate to what I do now in terms of consulting work? Because I realized that when you talk about motivational speakers, most people think, oh, no, come on, it's just a, it's a scam. Every second person is a motivational speaker now. But for me, it was to take that even further and to look at what is it that really motivates a person, and what is it that drives people, that makes people different. And I had to bring in the science. And hence, for me to write this book was just something that is rare, and I never thought that it was possible at the time. Sometimes when you start doing something, I like what Nelson Mandela said, that it's only when you reach the top of the hill or the mountain that you discover that, oh, there are so many other beautiful mountains to climb. So I think that's the same thing that happened to me. When I started, I didn't think that one day I'll get to write that. As difficult as it is, because I must really emphasize that, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult journey. It's a lonely journey. And if you don't have a support system around you, you can easily give up. So the book, therefore, looks at how you can be able to apply practically and understand leadership. And the book itself, it's divided into 3 parts. And I think that's something that maybe I can just explain further.
I want to pick your brain about that, because oftentimes when you read so-called self-help books, the bigger question then stems from how do I use the methodology that's prescribed in the book to my life in practical terms.
Yes.
Maybe answer that.
So how I answer it, what I like about it before, what makes it so difficult is that science has shown over and over again that no 2 brains or 2 people are alike, even identical twins. So it's difficult to be prescriptive in terms of how people are supposed to behave and how they can be. So this book about the brain is about science, something that has been tested. So how it actually helps is that you get to understand what drives this behavior. And also, when you look at how the makeup of the brain, is all about, and how it has evolved over the years, when you read the book, you understand the science, and then you can be able to connect with what it is. For an example, when you talk about anger, all of us do get angry. So it's not a question of how do you get angry, how do I get angry, because it's a chemical reaction. So in the book, I explain the issues of anger, the issues of fear, the issues of excitement, which are called primal emotions, because all of us experience them. So it's not a question of saying, in order to be successful, do this. So I'm saying, in order for you to make it and to be the greatest in what you do, understand how you operate, because we are like cars. We operate almost the same way. It's just that, there are those nuances, those small different things or differences that you get to have. But in the whole, we are basically the same. So the book here explains the science, which is not, in a way that is explained at universities. I've toned it down so that everyone can get to understand. So when you open this book and you read it, you will relate with it. You will get to understand, because it's telling you about what is happening inside the brain. Then you can make sense and be able to connect and understand, oh, that's the reason why I behave like this. That's the reason why I do this. Because that's what we need. Instead of being told, in order for you to make it in life, you must do this. It doesn't work like that, because some of us are risk takers, some are not. So I can offer you and advise from a risk-taker's perspective. But if you are risk-averse or you are risk-neutral, it won't make sense to you. That's why people attend conferences, they attend workshops. But after that, they don't connect with that, because I was talking from a different perspective, but not yours. So, but if you understand how the brain works, you can easily connect. That's why this book has actually written with that in mind.
So, Mr. Ndaba, somebody who is invested in helping people untap their potential, or tap into their potential rather, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you have noted when it comes to leadership, whether it be political or in business or in other spheres as well?
What I've noted is that leadership is such a difficult, thing to do. And most people think that they can just become leaders. And I can say one thing, that for you to become a leader, you need to understand what drives human behavior. And that's the perspective that I'm bringing. Because what leaders are experiencing is that they just want to multiply themselves through other people. And no two people are the same. So the job, or the leader's job, is to basically create an environment where there's trust, where there's respect, and where people can feel that they belong. That's something that we call psychological safety, where people can feel that they are part of this organization and they are being respected, and then they bring out the best in them. But most leaders, they just push people and they want to be like how they want them to be. And there's a rule that we talk about that says, treat others the way that you would like to be treated. But science is showing us something different. It says, treat others the way that they want to be treated. So as a leader, therefore, you need to understand how people individually want to be treated in order for them to bring out the best in them. So I think with this book, I'm just trying to reverse that. That's what we call the platinum rule of leadership.
As we wrap up our conversation, I've come to learn that leadership can also be very, very lonely, if you will. You spoke about the support that you've gotten over the years. Maybe let's speak about that. What has kept you going?
What has kept me going, first of all, is actually the dream and the passion that I have, and the vision that keeps me going, to say, you know what, this thing is possible. People are in the dark, and for us to be transformed from a place of, mental darkness to mental light, we need to be focused on what we're doing, and we need to be focused on what we want to do. I think for me personally, my family has kept me going. I mean, my wife has actually been there, supportive, throughout my journey, and my boys, the family and friends as well. But I must really say, you can have all the support, but if you don't have this fighting spirit in you, you will easily give up. So I think for me, one thing that has also motivated me and that has kept me going is the progress that I've seen making and the difference that I've seen making in teams and in people or leaders, in general.
Well, Mr. Ndaba, I'll definitely be putting my hands on that book as well. Thanks to our guest, Veli Ndaba. He's the author of Neuroengineer. He's a motivational speaker as well. And this book being about the neuroscience of effective leadership. He was sharing his insights on what to expect when reading this book.